What you're seeing are some loot explosions from one of the best farms I've ever personally done. It revolves around using the Evolving Shrine with fully magic Alva temples to spawn more rares than your headhunter can even keep up with, and it doesn't use a single risk scarab. The most expensive scarab it uses is like 2 chaos. It drops everything, mainly raw currency like divines and valdos, but also scarabs, maps, gold, good uniques, and a lot of XP. I'm gaining like 8% XP at level 98 per map, and in the end it worked out to an almost 2 divines profit per map margin for me. I'll always share the stuff I'm doing, and in my opinion this is easily the most well-rounded strategy I've done in a while, so consider subscribing, and subscribe to Ruz, since as I was making this vid I saw a version of this trap done by him, and that gave me some ideas for mine, so his channel will be linked down below too. Before I break down the strat, first off, the build requirements are number 1, good clear, and number 2, the ability to kill rares fairly quickly. It's not anything like meat sack rares or essence of adaptation rares, just regular ones. This is much easier than stuff like blight and rogue exiles and risk farming, especially if you have a headhunter. That item is a cheat code for this strat, but there is a big downside, and that is this strat is one of those ones that will murder your PC with the rendering issues that everyone's been having since you're killing so many mobs at once. If you're able to push through those issues, then that's great, but if you aren't, then I'd recommend doing something else. So what's the strat? It revolves around juicing as many magic mobs into Alva's incursions as you can through the Champion Scarab, which with your Atlas tree turns every single mob in Alva's incursions into magic and increases the pack size substantially. You then get an Evolving Shrine to then clear those incursions, getting as many rares as possible, and then you use the Nemesis Scarab to further juice all of those rares, and then you use a Beyond Scarab of the Invasion to gain even further from the however many rares you will be killing per map. This results in just some of the most consistent loot you will get, but also some of the most consistent performance issues you will get. Since the bulk of her loot is in Alva's incursions, you do not need to run this on tier 17s for the natural mobs. I'd say that this strat is actually better in 16.5s because those maps are much smaller and easier to navigate from your Evolving Shrine to your Alva temples. We use Jungle Valley, so we have a higher chance at currency, dupe, and quant altars, and we roll for high currency. My threshold was 120%. We deli arbor maps, however this is not necessary. Deli orbs are consistently gaining in price, so if you deem it too steep, you can't just skip it, but it's probably still worth it. We then use the Settler's Craft instead of Quant, since bismuth ore is just such a massive multiplier to the loot gained that even if you only get it like once in every 3-4 maps, that will be better than the 8% added quant every single map. I've said this a couple of times now this league. The Settler's Craft is the best craft in the game when paired with the bismuth infusion nodes on the tree, which is the best 3 points you can take in the game in my opinion. Odds are, if you are ever opting for quant as your craft, you will benefit more from spending free Atlas points on that and running the Settler's Craft instead. It is wildly underrated, and I'm surprised more people are not talking about it. Let's talk about the Gull real quick. I ran the strat with the Gull and I also ran it without it. It is still incredibly good even without the Gull, so don't feel put off if you do not have it in your build or if you cannot fit it in your build, but you can 100% feel the impact of the Gull, especially the increased durations of shrines. I would 100% try your best to make some sacrifices in your build to fit the Gull in for the strat, but if you no matter what cannot seem to find a way to slot it in, if your helmet is just too important for your build, I would run this strategy with 2 Evolution Scarabs instead, since without the Gull you're getting pressed for time when it comes to clearing the final temple. You'd sub out one of the Champion Scarabs for an Evolution Scarab. It just means one of your temples every single map on average will not be entirely magic, which is fine. Obviously if you can fit Blunderbore in with your build, the chest plate that gives you 75% increased effect of your shrines, then that'll take this strat even further, but I didn't even attempt to run it with that. As for running the maps, I'll have a showcase at the end, but you run through and you clear the map with the goal being to get the quant and the currency dupe altars and hopefully the bismuth ore. You pick up the evolving shrine once you're done clearing the whole map, and then you go and clear through all 4 alpha incursions with the shrine buff. If you're running 2 evolution scarabs because you aren't running the Gull, or you're running it on like a tier 17 map with a bigger layout, then you pick up one as you're clearing the map, since you'll have more time to spare with the evolution buff. And we're running this tree. I did do two different setups. Oh, that's my mute sacs. I did do two different setups, one for Scarabs, one for currency. Currency is much, much superior to the point where I wouldn't even recommend doing Scarabs at all. But this is the tree. I truly don't think there is much room for optimization with it. This strat is one of the few strats that I've done where I actually felt like I had nowhere near enough points on the tree to take everything that I wanted to take. So there are a lot of sacrifices, such as we take almost no Scarab nodes. This is really the only one that we take over here, but that's fine since we're farming for raw currency, and we don't take the memory tear nodes up here because it is genuinely just too many points on a tree that we're struggling for points on. We take Alva nodes for a 100% Alva spawn chance. Remember to empty out your temple after every free maps. Put Alva next to your map device so you do not forget. We take the 4 incursions here. We take the magic chance up here because when combined with 2 champion scarabs, that guarantees that every mob in our incursions will be magic, consistently enabling the strat. And then we take these pack size ones down here. Beyond wise, we sort of just take the classic Beyond clusters. We take that cluster, that cluster, that cluster, and this cluster right here to enable more currency drops. Shrines wise, we want to boost the effect of our shrines and how long that they last. So we get the increased duration down here, and then we just grab that. And we get the increased effect up here, and we just grab these for the extra mobs. We take the quant wheel in the center. We take as much map modifier effect as we can get, and we take Eater of World altars again for quant and currency duplication altars. And we take this over here just because we spawn so many rares that even without any other Scarab nodes, this one is still pretty great to get. Last but not least, we take Bismuth Infusion, and then we take this node down here, so every other map has double the odds to grant Bismuth ore, and then this node to hopefully increase our odds at finding Bismuth. You will likely see one of them like every 2 or 3 maps. Sometimes you'll get a nice string of them, sometimes a dry streak. I'd say that my luck worked out to every other map. And that is the tree. Earlier on I said that you'd roll the maps for 120% more currency. You'd also want to exclude 2 mods, one being volatile cores because sometimes your game slows down and it is just impossible to outrun them, and there's like 100 of them. Sometimes it is crazy. And the second one being buffs expire faster because that would ruin the uptime on your shrine. I'll have a Regex for that in the description below, so just follow that and you should be fine. If you follow everything that I've said, the tree, the Scarab setup, possibly using the Gull, how to roll and run your maps, in the end you should be getting explosions fairly consistently like you've seen. Obviously not every map will have a tink, some will have none, some will have multiple. If we take a look at Wealthy Exile, this is the look from 25 maps. It says 66 divines. It's more like 58 in terms of things that I'd actually liquidate once I properly priced it. But you can see here 36 raw divine slash exalts and 16 Valdos boxes all in 25 maps. It averages out to like 2 plus tinks per map, and that is with no risk scarabs used, with the most expensive scarab being currently 2 chaos. I do want to say I think the strat, when optimized for map farming, might be the best non-risk Scarab map strat in the game. Maybe it'll be slightly worse than Blight map farming. That will likely be my next video. So if you're looking for more map farming strategies, a video will be out in a few days on that. Also, I didn't just run 25 maps. That would be absurd. That would be too low of a sample size. I ran more like 80 with multiple different versions of the strategies. You can see right here, I think it was 75 and 183 divines and 75. No matter what, it was always good, always extremely consistent. You can see 55 raw divines, 47 raw Valdos. It is incredible. But I'll take a quick look at the Google Docs before the map showcase. 2,600 investment. The bulk of that is 16.5 maps and Delirium Orbs, although again, Delirium Orbs getting sort of pricey and they honestly are not necessary. So if you don't want to get them, you don't have to, but they're still likely worth it. In the end, I made almost 13,000 chaos in 25 maps, minus the investment. That's over 10,000 chaos, which worked out to something like 46 divines profit, almost 2 divines profit per map. If you want a divine per hour thing, for me it was around 24 divines profit per hour, and it genuinely could have been much, much higher if the stuttering and rendering issues weren't such a massive issue with the strat. I'm not exaggerating when I say those issues added like 2 minutes of time to my map sometimes. Having too good of clear literally nerfed this strategy. But the docs right here, it'll be linked in the description if you just want a quick summary, as will the tree that I showed earlier and the Scarabs to use depending on if you have the Gull or not, and if you're running this in tier 16.5s or tier 17s. All the information you need for this strategy will be down below in the description. I hope if you have any questions, make sure to comment and ask. Okay, and I'll end this video with a quick little showcase. It's a 120%, 126% currency map, I believe, and all the Scarabs in the tree that I said to run earlier on. You just want to go to the end of the map, you want to pick up the best dollars on your way there, and you want to hopefully get a bismuth ore. I will say you can 100% notice the difference between a map with bismuth and a map without. Loot explosions are larger, they're more consistent. We didn't seem to get one here, so we essentially got no value out of our map craft, but still, I still think it's worth it. I always activate Alva before picking up the shrine just to get an extra few seconds out of it. Just when you're running one shrine, you're sort of pressed for time, especially when you're getting to the fourth incursion, so you want to get as much seconds out of it as possible. But if you're not running the Gull, just do a second Domination of Evolution Scarab and you should be fine. You can see right there we had those sort of stuttering and rendering issues. If that's something that you've struggled with, then you maybe want to skip this strat. But if you can fight through it, then this strat is 100% extremely lucrative, especially for the money that you're putting in. Again, the most expensive Scarab is like the Champion Scarab at 2 Chaos. Then the other ones are 1. The Nemesis Scarab is like, you get 2 for 1 Chaos. It is kind of insane. Yeah, as for crashing, even though you can see all of these rendering issues, I never crashed once, which means I never lost a map. I never lost my Domination Scarab of Evolution buff, which is pretty massive. It means the de-rendering works, which is awesome. But that's not something you have to worry about. Well, it's not something I had to worry about because of my PC. It could be that I have a better PC than someone watching this, and then they do crash and they just cannot do this strategy. Again, this strategy mainly relies on being able to run it performance-wise, not build-wise. It's a pretty easy, especially if you have Headhunter. The build requirements are actually not that hard. I mentioned it earlier, I do think that this strat is going to be the best when sort of evolved around map farming, and that will be my next video in 2 or 3 days, so look out for that. I have very high, oh, there's a tank. I have very high hopes for it. Again though, you should expect like 2 tanks per map. It doesn't always work out like that. You can go multiple maps without a single one, and then you can get like 4 in 1, and you can have that happen multiple times. You can have like the duplication altar and all of that. But what was it? It was like in 80 maps I dropped 60 something raw divines or 50 something, and the same amount of Aldos, and then I dropped like 3 sacred orbs in these 25 maps, and I dropped 8 in total out of the 75 maps. This is absolutely insane for raw currency farming. Domination Scarab of Evolution sort of went under the radar for the first half of the league, but it really feels like it's making a comeback towards the middle slash end. Oh, and that's another divine. This map ended up being a little bit above average. 2 raw divines again. Stuff like that will happen. Sometimes they'll get duplicated, so it'll make up for your average overall when stuff like this doesn't happen. But I'll run through the map real quick just to see the loot. You can see just pretty good, consistent loot, and that is pretty much the video. I'll hopefully get a map version of this strategy out soon. If you enjoyed this video at all, and if you got this far, consider subscribing if you haven't. And yeah, that's pretty much all.